Hi everyone, and welcome to another of our WHIR webinars. I'm Liam Eagle, I'm the editor-in-chief here at the WHIR, and today's session is titled Right-Sizing IT, or Right-Sizing IT to Increase Revenue per Square Foot in Your Data Center. And it's going to feature a presentation by Dina Davidson, who's product manager at Dell Data Center Solutions. Excuse me. So before I hand it over to Dina, and let her introduce herself a little more thoroughly, I'm going to take care of a few housekeeping items here. First of all, the slides. A lot of people tend to ask whether they'll be able to get their hands on the slides afterwards. We'll have a video archive of the entire webinar, including audio, next week on the WHIR site, so you can certainly look at that. And then there will be some contact info on screen later in the webinar, so if you'd like to contact Dell directly and request the slides, you can certainly do that also. Secondly, questions. We're scheduled for about an hour today. We've saved some time at the end for questions, so if you have questions, you can submit them throughout the webinar using the controls in the webinar system. I'll keep an eye on the questions throughout, and if there's something that's really relevant to what's being said at the time, I can certainly find a polite moment to interrupt and put the questions to Dina. So please do submit them throughout. We'll also have a record of all the questions asked, so if you ask a question that, because of time, doesn't get answered during the session, or for some other reason, you can certainly submit it, we'll have a record of that, and somebody will follow up with you after the fact. Finally, as I said before, there will be some contact info on screen later, so if you have a question that you don't necessarily want to ask in the context of a public webinar, you can certainly follow up with Dell directly after the fact. So without further ado, I am going to turn things over to Dina and make her the presenter and let her share her presentation with you. Dina, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So yes, hi everybody. My name is Dina Davidson. I am a product marketing manager specifically focused on the PowerHC 5000 MicroServer series, which I'll cover later in the presentation as well. I am part of the Data Center Solutions group here at Dell. I've been at Dell for 7 years now, and part of the Data Center Solutions group for a little over a year and a half. So today, as Liam mentioned, it's right-sizing to increase revenue per square foot in your data center. And so I'm going to be walking through what possibly you might have in your data centers today and what's traditionally used as part of different parts of the infrastructure, to see if that continues to make sense for you, or if you may or may not know of the new technologies we've introduced over the past few months, if that makes better sense to you. And in the end, bottom line is it will add more margin to your bottom line if you get to see the advantages depending on your workload and your environment by using our products and solutions that we have today. So let me make sure I get this full screen mode.
Looks good.
Liam, can you see it? Okay, good. So I'd like to start off by saying, everyone thinks they need a powerful vehicle. And so obviously here we have a picture of a Hummer, which was created and designed for the military use, to clamber over 30-inch obstacles, to go through large amounts of water. And so people think that they need it for everyday usage, right? It's pretty expensive. So the entry-level price in 2006 for this particular vehicle for the mainstream customers was between $130,000 to $150,000. So it's pretty pricey to begin with, right? Your acquisition cost is pretty expensive. In addition to that, it's not very power efficient because it is so bulky. It actually gets 11 miles per gallon, so that's additional money out of your pocket, right? So, and obviously it's very bulky and big. So, what about trips to the shopping center or the mall or the post office or to your kids' soccer games, football games, what have you? So what you really need sometimes is a smart car, which you can see here. And entry-level price for this is $13,000. Mileage is about 41 miles per gallon, so you're saving a lot more too in that sense as well. And it's also easier to control. It's a lot smaller. It's a little bit more dense, right? So it's a bit more practical. And obviously, the gist from these two slides is that there is one product for one workload. There's another product for your larger workloads. It's more practical. So where is this all going? So today I'll talk to you a little bit about our new class of servers called MicroServers. And Dell did announce 2 of them March of this year at World Hosting Day in Germany. And so there was a lot of excitement around that. Before we get into that, though, where did microservers begin, or why did microservers even evolve? So as everyone knows, Moore's Law, you get the number of transistors on an integrated circuit double every year. And that's great, right? Because you get increased processing frequency, you get a lot more compute power out of that. And there are applications for that. For example, high-performance clusters, online transaction processing, and obviously virtualization. But there aren't other applications that haven't been able to scale to that or take advantage of all that compute power out there. And for example, those are like your LAMP stacks, so where you have your Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP workloads. And obviously that translates also into web servers. And also for other processing needs like file and print servers as well. So either you over-provision by buying hardware that is not tailored to that specific light workload, or you have to revert to last year's or 2 years ago generation, right, which is kind of hard to do, and why would you even spend money doing that? So that's how microservers evolved. It was to play into that lightweight processing needs that weren't scaling up to the processing power that was becoming available today. So since then, we have IDC. They have their own definition of a microserver, and the SSI Forum. And for those who aren't familiar with the SSI Forum, it's the server industry group that drives server infrastructure standards. And there are a lot of companies that are members of it. So the definitions, they have their own verbiage here, but in comparison, they're both saying the same thing. Their microservers are, for scale-out purposes, they're single-socket servers. They're entry-level servers. Obviously, they'll have lower power consumption, improved density, and you get better efficiency through resource sharing. And some of the examples that they provided was, for entry dedicated hosting, fixed-function web servers such as static web page serving, and cost-effective web services. I'll go through a little bit more as well as we walk through this. So where does Dell fit into all of this? Dell actually has the largest microserver portfolio in the industry, and you can see the 3 products we offer today. So there's the PowerEdge C5125, which is our AMD-based microserver. It's for the hosting and Web 2.0 markets, usage models, there's dedicated hosting, very light shared hosting, and web file server. We also have the PowerEdge C5220, and that is our Intel-based microserver using the new Sandy Bridge or the E3-1200 processor series technology. And so because of that, in addition to the hosting and Web 2.0 markets, we're also seeing it play into very niche HPC applications such as single-threaded apps. We've gotten feedback for life science apps where core count doesn't matter, but frequency does. And so what the E3-1200 series processors feature is, the turbo mode. And because of that, with the single core turbo mode, it can go all the way up to 3.9 gigahertz. So that was really appealing to some of our customers. Another market, too, is content delivery networks, and we have seen rather large customers, specifically in the Asia market, take advantage of that, too. So for like media streaming, audio streaming, things of that nature, they can use the C5220. So usage models, obviously, too, is shared, dedicated hosting, as well as a web file server and virtualized hosting as well. Both C5000 series, you can get 12 servers in the 3U form factor, so it's very dense. So it's 4 times the density of a traditional 1-unit server. The C5220, in addition to the processor difference of having Intel, also provides, there's also another option we have here. So you can get a mezzanine card option, and with that you get, SAS controller for SAS drives, or you can get hardware RAID. We also have a MES card option for dual gig. So if you want additional dual gig to the ones that are already on the server today, then you can have that option as well. And that one's the best performance per watt option, whereas our C5125 is our best performance per watt per dollar option for customers who have different needs in that sense. So that's at the server level, right? And so at the rack level, Dell also recognized a need and wanted to embrace the microserver technology to think about the customers who care about the rack economics, right? And so I don't know if a lot of you are aware of, but we do sell C Micro's SM10000 via reseller agreement. It's essentially 256 Intel Atom cores, all in a 10U form factor. And so each core, each processor has 2 cores. So that gives you a total of 512 cores, all in a 10U form factor. And because we're using Atom and because they're so low powered, it's 75% less space as well as 75% energy. So you get your TCO reduced at a rack level. So just to dive in a little deeper to the C5000 series, here's a better picture for you all to look at. So the reason Dell created it was because we were getting customer feedback. You know, they wanted dedicated and virtualized servers. Their racks were very power constrained. One customer in particular, their racks were at sub 3 kilowatts per rack. So they really need something really low powered. Obviously, their data centers were getting space constrained too. They were running out of room essentially. They're filling up their racks. So they wanted to get something where they can get more out of their data center space. And obviously they were having a LAMP workload, so they were having that light processing need. They didn't want to pay for 2 socket servers when they weren't going to utilize them completely. And obviously cost was a concern for them as well, right? They wanted to save money and add more margin to their bottom line. So today we've actually have the 3rd generation of microservers. So what you see here is 12 individual servers in a 3U form factor. So the bottom picture is a picture of one of the sleds, which essentially is the same thing as you would find in a traditional 1U, 1-socket server. Everything is cold aisle serviceable, which means that you'll never have to go in the hot aisle to service your product. The only time you'll have to go in the hot aisle is to apply AC power. So what does that mean, right? That means you can run your data center at a warmer temperature since you don't have to worry about going into the hot aisle. So that, of course, saves you even more money. So as I mentioned, it's 4 times the density of traditional 1U servers. Because of the form factor, it's 75% less to cool than traditional 1U servers. It's 150% more dense than HP half-height blades. And the shared infrastructure, which I'll go into a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides, because of it, the servers themselves consume less floor space, power, and cooling. So you're saving a lot of money that way as well. And the power supplies themselves are very efficient, so they're 92% efficient or hot plug as well and redundant. So to expand the shared infrastructure story, which is kind of common across the Power HC products in general. So what does shared infrastructure mean? It means that all the servers share the same mechanicals, so they're all in the same chassis. They share all the same cooling, and they share the same power. So because of that, there's a lot of advantages and benefits we see from it. So on the far left-hand side, you get the cooling benefit. And what we took here is, hey, let's take 12 traditional 1U servers. So that each of the servers had 4 fans, and so that quickly added up to 48 fans and a 12U space. Whereas with the C5000 series, there's 6 large, more efficient fans to cool the servers themselves, and then there's 2 smaller fans to cool the PSUs for a total of 8. So you get 1/6 less the amount of fans. So that's a lot less, so you have to worry about it in terms of something breaking or replacing, things of that nature. Power, and because we're sharing power and because it's all in the same chassis, there is a great benefit to that, I'm seeing that power consumption is reduced by 40% per server. And that's huge, right? And I have some data to go over later on to show you the great benefits and what that means to your bottom line. Mechanical is all about density. So whereas you would take up 12U in your one rack for the traditional 1U, 1-socket servers, you actually would just use 3U space. So you get a lot more out of your rack and your data center space. You can add more in your rack, and you can see a lot of benefit from that. And just to share a little bit more of how shared infrastructure really benefits here, on the right-hand side we have some power data we got from our engineering team. And we have a 1 motherboard and a 2U, so 1 server and a 2U, and then we have our 4 server and a 2U, which we do offer today. And then there's a 24 server and a 12U, which is not publicly available, but it is to some of our larger accounts in the Data Center Solutions group. And as you can see here at the bottom axis, the horizontal axis is your inlet temperature, and then your left-hand axis, your vertical axis is your fan power. So with your 1 server and a 2U at 35 degrees Celsius, it's a little over 30 watts, right? So when you start utilizing the shared infrastructure and adding more servers in there where it's sharing the cooling and the power, you're seeing the benefit of the fan power dropping. So it goes from a little bit above 30, let's say 32 watts, to about 24 watts, all the way down to, let's say, 8 watts. So that's a drastic change in fan power, right? So, and also the cool thing too is that you're saving power, but you're also at the same time saving space. So you get 1/4 the space, and you get 78% less fan power, which is really huge, right? So the next thing I was going to walk through is optimal workloads and what product is right-sized just for the workload that you're seeing in your environment and your applications. So obviously one size does not fit all. Savings comes from getting the right fit for the workload. So what we have here is a slide directly targeted at the hosting customers. Excuse me. On the left-hand side, you have the dedicated hosting, and then you have on the right-hand side shared hosting. And we took, the 3 key things that customers look for, and it's how much is it going to cost me, how dense is the product, and power, right? Because power means OpEx, and the less power is better for us. So on the left-hand side, we have the dedicated hosting. As you can see here, we go from low, medium, to high. And so at the bottom end, we have our C5000 series, which is our cheaper, most dense product. And then we have our C6105 and our C6100, which are all the 4 servers in a 2U form factor, and they're each of the servers are 2-socket. So therefore, you get a little bit more performance, utilize a little bit more power. Still dense, but it's going to cost you more than the C5000 series. On the shared hosting side, we have our C-Micro SM10000, right? It's the densest, cost-effective for that kind of application. And then you have the C5000 series again, along with the C6000 series. And at the top end, you have the C6145. And the reason it's there, it's our 4-socket motherboard, and you get 2 of those 4-socket servers in a 2U form factor. And each server supports 32 DIMMs. That's a lot of memory, a lot of compute power. So therefore, we thought it was the best fit for the shared hosting workload. And to expand on that, on the top of this slide, you can see the products again. So they have C-Micro, the C5000 series, C6000 series, as well as the C61485. And you have a brief description of what all the products are. And so we split the workloads between dedicated and shared hosting needs. And like LAN stack and file and print, that's more for our C5000 series. So that's just the right fit for that. Email, depending on how much traffic and how many user accounts you have set up, it can work on the C5000 series. And as it grows, you can use the C6000, 6105, 6100 products. For the shared hosting needs, web applications, depending on how much performance or how much utilization you're using, goes from minimum to maximum. So covers all our products. And then obviously the cloud infrastructure, a few of our products are right-sized just for it, and virtualization as well. So virtualization, we have light virtualization on our C5000 series all the way to the maximum of where you get your high-performance VMs, and that would be for your C6145. So for the dedicated hosting, this is one of the key advantages we saw, and I know it's a pitch for this webinar. So what we did is we took actually, we measured the power of a C5125 chassis, and then we took a one socket, one used server, and measured that power. And we took a 48U rack, which is kind of, you can see here, or is drawn to demonstrate. And we also included the switches, you know, for data management, things like that. We capped it at 13 kilowatts, which is really large, but it was something that some of our customers have been seeing in the U.S. And so we were able to fit 168 microservers in a 48U rack, whereas you would get 46 of them in a 48U as well. So that meant 122 more servers. And then we went to a hosting company's website, found a similar configuration, and found that if they were to switch over to the microservers, it would earn them $1.6 million more a year in revenue per rack. And so that is huge, right? So they get a lot more of their data center space just by switching to our microservers, and at the same time, they're also saving money because of the power savings each node provides, right? So a difference in energy in over 3 years by using our microserver is $210. And so when you start spreading that across hundreds of microservers, it quickly adds up. So virtualized hosting. So this is a customer in particular that we worked with called Island, and they're actually a provider of cloud computing infrastructure with data centers specifically designed for cloud computing, and they have data centers in locations such as Boston, Washington, D.C., Houston, L.A., Dallas, and London. And to stay competitive, they need to gain as much value as possible from every watt of power and every square foot of data center floor space. So the solution to them was our Dell PowerEdge C6105 server, which they said that type of server would help them immensely because they were able to provide a 4-node VMware ESX cluster and a 2U space and only use 3 amps of power. So they were actually using 2Us before they switched over to the 6105, and they could only fit, because of the power constraint, 20 of those servers in a rack. And so when they looked at our C6105, they were actually able to quadruple that and use 80 servers in a rack. So obviously getting at 1/3 less power with 4 times the density. So obviously they were saving on floor space and racks, and then they were also saving money on power, or getting more out of what they were already paying, right? And they also really liked the feature that the servers themselves are individually serviceable and they were hot pluggable as well. And this is a close-up of the server I'm referencing and talking about, the C6105, and the C6100 looks similar as well. So what you have here is high compute and storage density. So as you can see here, you know, one of the sleds that pulls out, that's a half-width board, and it features 2 sockets. And depending on the AMD or the Intel version, there's either different memory support. So this one's 12 DIMMs. You know, it's higher density than many modular designs. You can get up to 6 2.5-inch drives or 3 3.5-inch drives per node, which means a higher server spindle count than the HP and IBM 2U products. And obviously what Island really liked too is that the servers themselves were independently serviceable, and they were hot serviceable as well. So if a server goes down for whatever reason, that one server goes down and it doesn't affect the operation of the other 3 servers that are also within the same chassis. So they really liked the density and the form factor, and they also obviously really loved the power savings they were getting from it. And it's also a great cost option for them as well. So this is our C6145, and as you can see here, it's the highest performing shared infrastructure server on the market today. And why is that? And that's because it can support 432 VMs per server. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, this 2U chassis actually has 2 servers in there, so 2 motherboards. And each motherboard has 4 sockets, which at this time you can get up to 96 cores and 1 terabyte of memory in a 2U, which is huge, right? And it's really appealing for our customers who are interested in it for their virtualization needs. You can get the 12 2.5-inch drives, or you can get the 6 3.5-inch drives per node. And it's also pretty flexible in terms of your I/O. So you get 3 by 16 PCIe slots, 1 by 8 mezzanine, and then a 1 by 16 dedicated host interface card port, and that's for the capability of hooking up to our C410X expansion chassis. And also, this is also obviously hot serviceable nodes as well. So the key benefits of having this is you get 50% more cores and memory than traditional 4-socket servers. It's 50% more dense than traditional 4-socket servers as well. You get 50% more storage than comparable HP servers. And obviously, again, another key benefit for this product, which also utilizes shared infrastructure, is that it uses less floor space, power, and cooling. So I'm going to start walking through the different aspects of your infrastructure, seeing if what today, here we have the rack level, see if what traditionally is used today, what it could be tomorrow for you in your business. So here at the rack level, and pretty similar to the one I covered a few slides ago, but this one's a 42U rack. On the left-hand side is what you might be using today in traditional, 42U rack, 1U, 1 socket servers, and then you're capped at 4 kilowatts, right? By going to our microservers, you can get 140% more servers per rack, and that means that you're really using the full amount of power that you're provisioned. So here you're actually going to use 456 less watts that are stranded in the rack. And then also too, another cool feature about our microservers is that you can use one cable to talk to all 12 servers management-wise. So that means that you're spending less on cables as well. So that's a 70% fewer management cables. So that has a great impact just at a rack level, right? So you get a lot more out of it. Our servers are really dense and they're really power efficient. So an example of that, as one of our customers, this online.net was actually our original MicroServer customer. So they came to the Data Center Solutions Group a couple of years ago, and they said, "Hey, we need something that's right-sized just for our workload. We don't need, the 2-socket, 4-socket servers out there. We obviously want to get a lot more out of our data center space. We want it to be as power efficient as possible, and I also want to simplify my management." So at the time, the Data Center Solutions Group actually custom designed a server just for them, and it was codenamed Fortuna. And that was our first generation of microservers. It's 12 servers in a 2U. It utilized, at the time, the VIA Nano processor. It only had 1 SODIMM, and it had 1 hard drive, 2.5-inch hard drive. So it was so low powered and so cost effective for our customer that he was able to be very competitive in his hosting options. He actually dropped the price of his entry-level hosting option for the customers, gaining more customers to his site, and then actually, attracting them and keeping them there as their needs grew. Then obviously he had other solutions for them. He loved the fact that we were faster time to market with this product, which also at the time that we designed it was the densest server on the market at that time. He loved the fact that there were discrete servers, so none of them shared any resources with any other servers. They were fully dedicated. Security was one of his concerns as well, is he wanted dedicated servers, no virtualization. And the low power I'm hoping you can see the last bullet, is that he was actually seeing 11 watts per server, which meant that out of his 3 kilowatt rack that he was capped at, he got more than 250 servers per rack, and he loved it. So that was huge for him. It was great business for him, and we continue actually to work with him today. So what about the whole, modular data center? So we went from the rack. Let's talk about data centers in general. So on the left-hand side, you can see we have the traditional data center, and you probably, there's different things that you deal with. Why is this rack hotter than this rack? Why are the fans going on the servers and not these servers, et cetera? And it's probably not as efficient as it should be. So the one thing that I ask is that you look at your data center and see where you're seeing challenges and issues, and we do have services to help out with that. And obviously, your efficiency varies. So your PUE is the metric that represents how much additional power the data center requires on top of your IT load, right? So the lower it is, the better it is for you and your operating expenses. Obviously, you have to pre-plan everything because you're going to be spending time with the design and making sure you think of everything at the time that you're building your data center, and so it's obviously all the costs are all up front as well. They take a long time to build as well. It's a 1 to 2 year project, and obviously it accommodates a variety of IT, but the updates happen very slowly. So another product that Dell actually has is what we call the Dell Modular Data Center, and I know other folks have it too. But ours has optimal efficiency. So your PUE is as low as 1.03. So that's only 3% in addition to your IT costs that you're paying, which is really impressive, right? And so it's 1/3 the cost as well as the traditional data center. Because what's happening here, since they're modular, you can add on as you grow. So as you grow your company, you don't have to build another data center and wait 1 or 2 years and spend all that money up front. You can actually just add on another modular data center, which is cheaper all the way around. The power and cooling is exactly designed around the IT workload, so it's just right-sized for what your environment and your application is at that time. The deployment is really quick. So it's 4 months from the greenfield to an operational data center. And as I mentioned, it's very flexible, so the modules just snap together to build a variety of solutions. So it's very flexible, it's very power efficient, and it's also a cost-effective way for you to build your data centers as well. So an example we have of that, and a very large example at that, which we're really proud of, is we worked with Microsoft Bing Maps. And you can actually see our modular data centers in the picture here. So their challenge was that they needed an environment extremely efficient. They want obviously to save money, and they also needed it really quickly. So again, our data center solutions group created a custom, what we call MDCs, modular data centers, with 440 AMD processor-based Nucleon servers, which is a 24-month board in a 12U that I referenced earlier in the presentation, with loads of storage running on high speed, InfiniBand cards and transferring up to 250 terabytes in 24 hours. The power usage effectiveness, which is the PUE, which I've been talking about, has been measured at 1.03 under heavy load. So this was huge for us because it gave Microsoft everything that they were looking for at 1/5 the cost of power for 4 times the amount of compute density, which is really impressive. And there were also an 8 times reduction in data center operational costs when compared to traditional models. And they were able to do from a paved site to up and running in about 60 days. So it was so quick, and they really enjoyed that about it as well. The reason being it was customized just for them and their workload needs, and also at the same time very flexible for in case their workload changes in the future. It does work that way as well. And to the clouds. We went through the rack to the, your data center, and now what about the clouds, right? So I'm not sure a lot of you have heard, but Dell just recently announced their OpenStack Cloud solution, and it's the market's first OpenStack Cloud solution. And so when OpenStack, came along, Dell was the first hardware provider to stand up and get in on that to offer the solution, right? So that's why we're the market's first. So what we provide is a full reference architecture, which you can see here. So the hardware is our PowerC 6100 servers, and a configuration of minimum of 6 servers, and it's also flexible in the sense you can go all the way up to 60 servers, depending on your workload again. So you want to be, right sizing for it. Software-wise, it has our OpenStack installer, which actually Dell developed, and it's called Crowbar, and it is based on open, industry standard code, and it also provides the customers a chance to build on top of that code by using the bits that are available via what we call bar clamps. And then we also have services that we provide as well as far as deployment and support, on-site hardware install, on-site software install. And if you want to get really into it, the whiteboard session and training. So again, it's the first to market. Dell is out there working with the right groups to be innovative and make sure to provide our customers, if they want the cloud approach, can get up there quickly and easily as they can. And so of course we have a customer we worked through with it called DreamHost. And what they needed was a flexible open source cloud platform for their public cloud compute. And so they took advantage of our OpenStack reference architecture and deployment framework that I walked through previously, and that actually saved them 4 to 6 months of software development work. So it was really quick for them, and they were able to save themselves time and resources and money, obviously also adding to their bottom line, right? And they leveraged our cloud and scale-out servers and reference architecture, and then also realized the business advantages of leasing with Dell Financial Services. So it was really a big deal for them and for us. It was a collaborative effort. They really enjoyed it, and we hope to work with more customers, obviously, in the future on that as well. And that actually brings me to the end of the webinar. So I'm hoping that, I know it was kind of brief, but I'm hoping that somewhere along the way you were able to learn how to think about your applications, how to think about your environment, and make sure that you realize that you have the right equipment in place, just that are right-sized and specifically designed for your workload needs. So if you need any more information other than what I have in here, there are several sites you can go to, dell.com/PowerHC. If you want to learn more about OpenStack and how Dell can help you get up and running quickly to the cloud, you can go to dell.com/OpenStack. And if you have any other questions beyond that, you can also contact me. My name is, again, Dina Davidson, and so my email is dina_davidson@dell.com.
All right, Dina, well, I have a couple of questions if you don't mind
Sure.
putting those to you right now. So I know you gave a couple of specific customer examples in the presentations, a lot of them having to do with specific use cases. I know that from sort of previous discussions, one of the things that I found very interesting is that Dell is building a lot of solutions that, and this might not have always been the case, and this is, sort of true of a lot of technology that hosting providers are using, but Dell might not have in the past always been building solutions designed specifically for the hosting environment, but now you guys are. That's a really big use for your technology, and now you're building solutions that are designed really for specific hosting use cases. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how. I know some of these providers that you mentioned have actually had a hand in developing some. I think the online.
Yeah, the online.net.
Yeah, so I think I'd heard that they had a real role in the development of that technology. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So just to give you all some more background. So the Data Center Solutions Group started within Dell about 3 or 4 years ago. And they build customized hardware based on the biggest customers in the world, right? So like online.net was one of them, and that was for hosting. We work with the largest search engine providers and web providers as well. So a lot of what the online.net, they did start with the Data Center Solutions Group, and based on their feedback, redesigned the Fortuna microserver. And so because of that, it's evolved. Obviously when I mentioned it was, the VIA Nano processor, it only had one hard drive and it only had one DIMM. So today we felt that to give our hosting customers more options and flexibility, we have our second and third generation microservers, which is our C5000 series. So we have a little bit more compute power on there, obviously. We added more memory support, hard drive support as well, and then also the hard drive type. But what we do is, the Data Center Solutions Group works closely with our PowerHC team, and the PowerHC team and the PowerHC line is we take what we developed for those special customers and we make it available for everybody so they can take advantage of that same hardware in their environments. So we took what we made for online.net, for example, for their hosting. We expanded on it to make it a little bit more, more applicable to more hosting customers, and that's when we came out with the C5000 series. So now that's available to everybody.
Okay, so I think to hosting providers in general, it's probably very interesting to hear that Dell is sort of courting that that kind of input from the hosting community or from hosting, companies. Obviously,
Right.
as far as efficiency is concerned, it's simplest for you guys to have that hands-on relationship with the very biggest customers. Is there a process or an environment through which the smaller hosting providers, who obviously also could stand to benefit tremendously from using denser or more efficient hardware, I mean, is there a forum for them to provide you guys with some feedback on that too and sort of have a voice in the development of that technology?
Yeah, we do actually. So our PowerHC, we have a sales overlay team, and they're global. So we have some here. We have some in the U.S. Obviously, we have some in Europe, and then we also have some in Asia. And so they go out there and they talk to the different hosting customers, and I'm actually engaged in some of those conversations. And they do provide us feedback, and obviously we do take their feedback very seriously for upcoming products that may be coming up, or think about maybe today we don't offer something on our products. Maybe we should be offering it component-wise, or hard drive-wise, or certain memory configurations and things of that nature. But yeah, those are still happening today. For I guess an official forum, there isn't one, but there are customers working through our PowerHC sales specialists and sales architects via their account teams. We do get that feedback and we do get engaged.
Awesome. So I'd like to speak specifically about microservers, and since that's sort of sort of a fundamental shift in how you guys are approaching this sort of racking of servers, right? Beyond the rack itself, is there anything architecturally or network-wise that I need to do in order to handle the microserver chassis that you guys are putting in there?
No, I mean it's pretty much plug and play. I'm trying to think of any specific examples that they wouldn't be able to, but Right,
I was kind of thinking in terms of, I know you said you had sort of changed the way that you were cooling these machines, or the cooling requirements that they had. I mean, does it affect the way that I'm designing my cooling from my aisles, or is it just they just work with what's already there?
The one thing, well, it doesn't affect your cooling environment. It actually was when I mentioned the serviceability aspect of it. So our microservers are fully cold aisle serviceable, so you never have to go in the hot aisle, and that is different from other products out there, the market. So that was a little bit of a change for some of our customers. Also, as far as how you're going to connect the cabling from the server from the cold aisle, to your switch. So that's something that is a little bit different. But we haven't had a whole lot of negative feedback on that, and it's something that we're actually seeing that's starting to become a trend as far as how people are building up their data centers and how they're laying them out. Is the whole cold aisle serviceability, because they can save themselves some money by running their data centers at a warmer temperature. But other than that, I can't think of, anything else that would be affected.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I was looking for things that were right up front. I wasn't asking you to sort of dig in and look for problems, but
Oh, sorry.
no. I mean, it's cool to know. I guess I'm a little curious about, is this a concept that you guys are looking to further, or do you guys feel like you have it in hand as far as how things are going to stack up, or are you sort of?
We're still in the stages of gathering feedback. The one interesting thing to us, obviously, when we came out with the microservers, it is for our hosting customers, and that's what they were designed for. That's what they were created for. But the interesting feedback we get too, actually, we were at Intel Developer Forum last week, and we had a couple of analysts come by, and they see it as a trend, right? That it's gonna take off. I think people are still trying to figure out where exactly in their application, in their environment, what applications they have would take advantage of it. It is still new. I know we've heard about it for a couple of years now, but people are still trying to what is a microserver? How can I take advantage of it? Will my application benefit from it? So we do have a lot of non-hosting customers we work with as well to get their feedback. But Dell is always engaging with customers. We're always getting feedback. We love feedback because we want to make the right products for our customers too, right? We don't want to just throw something out there and expect it to be a one-for-all kind of thing. These are specialized. For PowerHC, it's a specialized product for a specific market specifically. So we're still investigating and seeing how the microserver product is going to evolve in the next couple of years.
So I think business model-wise, you had said that that company online, they're selling them as dedicated servers, right?
Yes, they are.
And that's working great for them?
Yeah, that was actually what one of their key requirements were. They didn't want to virtualize at all because for their customers specifically, their customers didn't want. It was the whole concept of, I don't want my server to be shared with other users. I want everything mine, and that's what I'm paying for every month. And so that was Online.net's requirement to us, is they need to be dedicated servers. And that's what we gave to them through Fortuna.
Awesome. Well, I think that's pretty much everything that I've planned out that I wanted to ask about, and I don't see any more attendee questions coming in. So if you don't mind ending a few minutes early, I think we could probably wrap it up after that.
Yeah, I didn't mind at all. And again, please feel free to reach out to me if anybody does have questions after today.
Okay. Well, just before we go, I'd like to remind everyone that a video of this webinar is going to be archived on the WHIR website, along with a lot of other great webinars, including another Dell one from a couple of weeks ago on specifically on Crowbar and OpenStack. And that's at thewhir.com/webinars. I'd like to thank everyone for attending and for sitting with us through this presentation. Obviously, I'd like to thank Dina for shedding a lot of light on some really new technology that I think is really interesting and really applicable to a lot of hosting needs. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.